Well, I was a part of leading just a space. Like I created the space in college for folks that were interested in their spiritual journeys and their spiritual growth. Just some of the religious places I went to, just not resonating. So I just created it. Towards the end of that time, a guy that was leading, it was a larger church here in Olathe, came down to Oklahoma City and started recruiting me. Basically, he said, "We want you in Kansas City. We want you to do this there." And I was like, "Well, you're gonna pay me to do it, right?" And he said, "Yeah." I remember the first time I came up to Kansas City, I'm driving up 35, never been to Kansas City, had no idea what I'm getting into. There's an exit on I-35, literally it's called cattle pens. And I thought, what is happening here? Where am I going?
In a corporate world where all employees have great leaders with no egos that create fun cultures where people can do their best work, the employees and companies thrive while doing great things for the customers, themselves, and each other.
Well, we know that rarely happens. I'm Jeff Palacio. I have been a leader for over 40 years for every t-shirt size company, from small 16 employees to extra large over 1 million. Please join me while I interview outstanding leaders that will share stories of great leadership and not so great. It will help you become a better leader while poking fun at all the crazy shit that happens in corporate America.
Hi, I'm Joe Deshawn, and welcome to the Corporate Couch with Jeff Palacio. Today, Jeff is interviewing Brad Hill. Brad is the Account Relationship Manager for the Freedom Project. He is also a life coach, podcaster, and published author. Prior to working on the Freedom Project, Brad spent 7 years as the Executive Director of Heart Connection Ministries, 8 years as a career counselor at Lake Mary Center, and 6 years as a community developer at Indian Creek Community Church. You can learn more about Brad and his work at the Freedom Project at fpmedianetwork.com. Let's listen as Jeff talks to Brad.
Brad, welcome to the Corporate Couch this morning.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this, man.
Yeah, no, this is
Appreciate
great.
you having me.
This is a first for me. I was on your podcast or recording it 2 days ago, and
Yes.
now you're on my podcast. So we're trading podcasts. So we'll see who gets the most downloads. We'll do a comparison, and the loser
There we
will
go.
have to buy the other a beer or something. Anyhow,
Sure.
it's all
Let's
good.
do it.
As well as you're the first New Orleans Saints fan to be on the podcast, to my knowledge.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, who dat? So
Well,
I'm I'm lifelong Saints fan. Grew up in Louisiana, and I can tell you, the bags on the heads. I was there for that. I can tell you all that stuff, man. I can tell you players from specific areas, time frames that people wouldn't know about. I can,
yeah, love it.
Yep.
I'll give you a quick Superdome story, Saints game. I was down there for a conference on business, but I had to fly in on a Sunday. And I asked the front desk when I checked in, I said, do the Saints play today at home? They go, yeah. I go, how far is the Superdome from here? They go, it's 5-minute walk. I walked down there just by myself. I scalped a ticket for $20, and it was Mike Ditka's first home game when he was the coach of the Saints.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Needless to say, New Orleans' perspective of Mike Ditka is dramatically different than
Right.
Chicago's.
Yeah, I'm sure.
That guy, I was in college, and I remember seeing an article where he was essentially trading the Saints' entire draft. Do you remember this?
Yes.
And he ended up and you're like, okay, we'll get a quarterback.
Yeah, it was for
And
Herschel
for
Walker, right? Was it Herschel Walker?
Ricky Williams. It was Ricky
yeah.
Williams.
Yeah, right. Ricky
Yeah,
Williams.
it was Ricky Williams.
Yeah.
And not good. So
I think somebody else did
yeah.
this. The Cowboys did the same thing with Herschel Walker, I think.
They did.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They got a ton of picks. Yeah. And I have season tickets. I've had season tickets. I was at the 2009 NFC Championship game in New Orleans. Amazing moment. I
Yeah,
will never forget it. I am, man.
love it.
I'm a diehard Saints fan. So
Love it. Love it. Let's start with a fun question in terms of, even people that know you, fairly well. What one thing about you, Brad, would surprise them?
I I think something that might surprise folks is I feel like I'm an authentic guy. I think people know that. Like I don't have a lot of tolerance for BS, but I'm nice about it. Um, but I really care, and I take an inordinate amount of joy in watching other people that I've been a part of their journey succeed. I mean, I've had success in my life, but when I have been a part of and really just kind of been behind the scenes and supporting, helping someone else and to see them flourish is, man, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. And in whatever way, it could be, in meaningful relationships, it could be in leadership, it could be entrepreneurship. I mean, whatever way that is, I I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. I think that probably makes my soul smile more than anything else.
Yeah, love that. Love that line, making your soul smile. Um, what was fun for you as a kid growing up in Louisiana? What did you love doing besides eating great food, I'm sure?
Oh, man. Well, that's a given. Um, you know what? I loved just adventure and exploring. I loved, so many fond memories when I was a kid. I mean, I love playing sports, right? But I, so many fond memories of just, you know, going on adventures, going out exploring with friends, and you weren't really time conscious. You're just going, and I mean, I remember there's a time where where my mom and dad got divorced when I was 6, and so this like I spent a week at my grandmother's place, which is about 5 miles from where where I grew up. And my buddy Wes and I were out exploring, and we were just exploring the countryside. And they lived on a farm, and we went through this kind of treed area, and we saw a pond, and we have discovered this pond, and it was man, it was just that feeling of like we're the first ones to see this. We
Nice.
felt that way. Like,
Yeah.
I love that sense of adventure, climbing
Yeah.
trees, just
Yeah. You guys were
riding
playing Lewis
bikes,
and
whatever.
Clark or something like that. You
Yeah,
exploring.
yeah, yeah. And I remember that. I remember that we would circle the calendar on the day that we knew was the actual longest day of the year. And the idea was to play as many baseball games as we could play in one day with our friends. And so we played, I don't know how time we got up in the morning, but we got up early and we played till like 9:30 that night. And it
Love
was
it.
wonderful. Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Love that. Any aspirations as a kid growing up? Like, hey, when I'm an adult, I'm going to be this.
You know, I don't think so. I just remember thinking, um, I just had a sense of what was really fulfilling to me. I know that I've always been really interested in leadership. Um, I remember, I think I was in ninth grade, um, that I was just intrigued by leadership, like that. The people who talked about it, and then there were usually like the quiet, observant, empathetic people that were actually doing it. And I read a book by John Maxwell. I think it was in ninth grade. I think it was like the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership or something like that. And I just remember talking about the law of the lid. And and I I just felt I mean I remember starting a class like the church I was a part of, starting a class and as a ninth grader, it didn't dawn on me. I didn't think about I didn't think about, well, who's going to listen to a ninth grader about this stuff? I
Right.
didn't think about that. I
Yeah.
just thought this is fun. Like, I really am passionate about this and I want to share this with people. And if no one cares, that's fine. But I'm going to do it. And I started this class at the church and had all ages there. I had some 40, 50-year-olds that were leading small businesses in the small
Wow.
town. And we just walked through that book. I just remember like teaching and
Wow.
talking through that book. And that's, that was fun. It didn't dawn on me. I never thought about, well, no one's going to hear you. Like, no one's going to listen to you.
Right,
Like,
right.
I never thought that. I just
Yeah.
thought, man, this is exciting to
You
me. I
got
bet it
joy from
might be
doing it.
exciting.
Yeah.
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 Yes. Yes. I mean, I just thought, this is exciting to me. I bet it will be exciting for other people. And, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that. And I've
So,
kind of just ran with that.
yeah. So was there a person or an event that drove you into this kind of, hey, I love this leadership stuff?
Yeah. I don't even remember thinking that I love leadership. Does that make sense? Like, I don't remember thinking, well, this is something at ninth, eighth grade I'm interested in.
Right.
Like, that specific topic. I was like, man, that's an interesting book. And I remember that people just, I guess, wanted to connect with me. Like, they trusted me. It seemed like they trusted me,
Right.
you know, and I didn't really have a context on if they did with other people. I didn't know, you know, um, and that's, and I don't remember having anyone that specifically that was, like a over the top influence. I mean, my dad was kind of in and out with my life for a lot of it. I mean, my mom, he's hugely empathetic person, big voice in my life and story. My the pastor that I grew up in of the small church, uh, he was not the best speaker. He was not the best speaker.
Yeah.
But everybody loved and respected him because he was present and they knew he actually cared.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, so I guess if you're asking, I think about it like that's
Yeah.
those are definitely some paths. So
Yeah. It's amazing that, you have very polished public speakers, but really, the best speakers, whether they're really polished or less polished, is when they're authentic
yeah,
and or authentic to themselves. They're transparent and they tell stories. So you don't have to do all the right things in terms of facing the audience. And you can be authentic and resonate with the audience if you're being truthful to yourself and trying to help others. So it's, yeah, very interesting.
and now that you say that too, Jeff, I'm thinking about it. Like, a guy that was, I mean, like a father figure to me, really, a huge voice in my life. But I've never thought about him in that capacity till you just asked that. Is my grandpa was just like hero in my life, and he World War II vet, served under Patton, literally got the top of his head blown off in World War II. Two Purple Hearts. And I remember he was so well respected in the community. Like, he was not revered is a strong word, but sometimes it felt that way. Like, he was so well respected, and and he never talked about leadership, but I mean, leadership's influence, I think. And he was definitely a leader in a lot of ways in my life and my story. And I held him in extremely high regard. Um, there's a story that, um, so I mean, I started speaking right at the church I was a part of and just other places when I was, I think, 15, public speaking. And so he would never, I never saw him at sporting events I was a part of. I never saw him, and when I was speaking, preaching, I never saw him. And I remember him telling the story about he used to be on the board, I guess, of that church. And I wondered why he didn't, I never saw him go to church there. And he said that he was on the board. Yeah. So he found out that the lead usher, he'd asked the lead usher about his wife, and like, her face is bruised up. And he said, "Hey, is your wife okay?" And he's like, "Well, sometimes, you got to rough them up." And and I'm listening to him, and he went to the board that he was on, okay? And he said, "Hey, we got to do something about this." And they didn't do anything about it. And he said, "I'll never step foot in that church again."
Mm.
And so I'm fast forwarding to my senior year of high school. Um, I'm speaking on a Sunday night, and I knew this, and I never seen him like sporting events or anything. And I'm about to be done. I'm about to wrap up. It's the last time I'm speaking, and I see him sneak in the very back row, and he looks at me from the very back row, and he just gives a thumbs up like that, and says, like, I mean, he didn't say anything, but it felt like he was mouthing the words like, "Great job." And then he snuck out. And man, that mattered to me.
Sure.
Like that was incredibly meaningful to me. And one of the things that I learned from that is like that's actually leadership. Like showing up for people, being present with people. Um, I mean, in moments that matter, in spaces that matter, um, genuinely showing up really matters. So
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I had only one living grandfather, but he was very close to me. He was a World War I veteran,
wow, yeah, wow,
and he fought for he was Italian. He fought for the U.S. His brothers fought for Italy, and they were not allies. So, you know, could have been a movie, I guess. But anyhow, long story. It's not my story; it's yours. So let's continue on. You go to college, and your major was pastoral counseling. So was that your original major? And if it was,
yeah.
what made you decide on that?
So the last 2 years of high school, I was debating: do I want to go into sports broadcasting, or do I want to do kind of pastoral ministry um, work? And I still think about that sometimes. Um, but I decided the latter. I was like, you know what, I want to do this. In my mind, I really wanted to help people and be helpful in people's stories and journeys. So I went to it was a really small religious school in Southwest Oklahoma City, actually in Moore, Oklahoma, which is a suburb of Oklahoma City. And went there in the fall of '95. I knew two people. I was the only guy out of my high school class that went out of state to college. Yeah, I knew two people in Oklahoma City. I was so ready in my senior year of high school. I was ready. I was ready to leave. But when we actually did leave to go to college, I remember just a ton of anxiety and actually like crying on the way there, like, man, and really just having a sense, maybe for the first time, that this chapter is over, that this is, just having an intuitive sense like, okay, this chapter is over, like I could play it safe, this is all familiar, this is convenient, I know exactly what I'm doing here, I don't know anything about where I'm going to,
Right.
then I
Like
know
most
this.
18-year-olds.
Yeah, this is the way home for me, man.
Yeah,
And so man, it was such a great, just a rite of passage.
that's great. I love the moving on. Uh, I had a similar feeling in high school, and then in college, I had two goals in college: do well grade wise and have fun. I accomplished both. But like some of my friends didn't want to leave, and I'm like, I'm ready for the next chapter. I'm
Yeah.
4 years. I'm out, and let's
Yes.
move on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that has been, uh, now that you say that, like that served me well in my life, and just a sense, an internal sense of, okay, my time here is done. It has not worked well in my life one time when I've ran that internal red light.
Well, I see that in your career too. I mean, you stay, fairly long at each position, but it's probably the inkling like, okay, I've done what I needed to accomplish here, and now it's the next phase. So we'll get into that. But I noticed that we're, you 6 year stint, 8 year stint, 7 year stint at places. So that's those are
Yeah.
long runs. Definitely, in this world of professional world of people leaving jobs, with less tenure versus like 30 years ago. So, yeah. So, what was your first job out of college, Brad, and how'd you get it?
Well, I was a part of leading just a space, like I created this space in college for folks that were interested in their spiritual journeys and their spiritual growth. Just some of the religious places I went to, it was just not resonating. So I just created it. Towards the end of that time, a guy that was leading, it was a larger church here in Olathe, which is a suburb of Kansas City, came down to Oklahoma City and started recruiting me. Basically, he said, "We want you in Kansas City, and we want you to do this there." And I was like, "Well, you pay me to do it, right?" And
Key point.
yeah, and he said, "Yeah." And I spent some time with it, and just sat with it a bit. I remember the first time I came up to Kansas City from Oakland. I'd never been to Kansas City before. It's kind of funny. I'm driving up 35, never been to Kansas City, had no idea what I'm getting into. There's an exit on I-35. There's a turnpike, right? And there's an exit. Literally, it's called cattle pens. And I thought, what is happening here?
Yes, near
Where am I
Wichita.
going? Like, I have no, yeah. And yeah, I mean, that first weekend, I knew just a couple people in Kansas City. I didn't know really anybody. And after about a month, I said, yeah, let's do it. Loved the idea of creating something new, and loved the idea of creating something with people that I trusted and loved, and so that's how I'm here, man.
Yeah.
Moved up here in January 2000.
I had Dr. Corey Shear on, a mutual friend I know of,
Yeah.
close friend of yours. But if similar,
Yep.
like kind of similar career paths that you guys had. I love you were a life coach, a career counselor, and an executive director at Heart Connections. But like, what was your learnings during that period? And then I'd love to weave in because you're the most published podcast host that I think I've had on the podcast, maybe you and Dr. Michelle Robb. I mean, you were early pioneer in it. So, weave that all together kind of, and then we'll talk about what you're doing currently at the Freedom Project.
So was at Indian Creek. I think it's called Hope Chapel now. Was at Indian Creek Community Church. Again, loved it. And about 4 years in, I just, this whisper, I'm like, I'm not sure this is for me. And I'm not sure that I'm super passionate about this. And I did not acknowledge that red light. Then I did not pay attention to that red light, and was let go of that job in 2006. And when it happened, was shocked, stunned, blah, blah, and ended up being one of the best things that ever happened in my life. I actually had a friend a month after he took me out. I was young, and he could just tell that I was, a little hurt. And he said, I know you don't want to hear this. He said, but this is going to be one of the best things that ever happened to you in your life. And he was right. Like, when he said it, I was so ticked. And it was. And for about a year, I mean, I just worked odd end jobs, man, like just part-time jobs, full-time, just whatever, because I knew I didn't know what I wanted. I knew I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want to create or be a part of creating. And then had this great job actually at a company called Suture Express for a while, and was fully vested in the company. Had never done any work like that in the medical field. They shipped suture equipment overnight to surgery centers nationally. I don't remember any international ones, but I was fine. I knew I didn't know what I wanted. And about 2008, I really started getting clarity on what I wanted, like what I wanted to create, and some passions and paths that I wanted to be a part of. And it was funny because I had a friend that was working with me at Suture Express, and he was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated with the job. He was getting frustrated, and he just quit. He just quit one day.
Wow.
He just quit. And there was something in me that knew, no, that's not it. And I'm fully vested in the company. And so forever grateful to a guy named Ed Kuklinski. And Ed kind of sensed that, I think. And we went out for barbecue, and he shared, this is not where you're going to land. This is just kind of an in-between thing for you. And I just want to say thank you for your time. And I also want to let you know, if you just hang around for another 2 to 3 months. I really think it's going to be worth it for you. I think he kind of knew that the company was going to be sold. I did. I hung around. So grateful for that. I hung around, and on the day it sold, I came up to him and I said, "Thank you, man."
Yeah.
And he
Talk
said,
about
"Thank you."
leadership.
Exactly. He did not have to do that.
Right.
And I quit that day. Was fully vested, cashed. I mean, just I'm so grateful. At that time, I thought, okay, I know what I want to do. I want to do this coaching thing. So there was a book inside of me. I wanted to write the book, check on all these different paths. Like, and if I don't pursue this, I'm going to regret it. And so that gave me some bandwidth to do that. And obviously, I mean, check with my wife and the people that I care the most about their positions and feelings about it. And I did that. So yeah, we started a coaching, life coaching. I didn't even know. I was like, what is this? Is amazing. Like, what was interesting is I had a lot of people that wanted to spend time with me. Like, they wanted to just connect with me, and they were asking for my advice, about whatever. So I'd never really heard of life coaching before then. I'm like, okay, so basically you get some level of certification, but it's really about bringing value to people. And I can do what I've been doing and they pay me for it.
Right.
Like, this is great. I mean, a lot of coaching is not just telling people stuff that they might not want to hear, but also giving them third way perspective and practical help. Me and a couple of friends of mine, we got some certifications, and we started. We called it Life Should Work, and it did very well. It did very well,
A
and
great
at the
name
same
too.
time, I'm writing a book. Yeah, I'm like, I mean, it's, I don't want to shoot on anybody. I think should's a shame word, but there is, our deal was, if there's a sense in you that it's not and it should, then we can help fill that gap. Like, I want to help you get to where it is working, in whatever capacity that is. And so it was great. Like, it was great, man. And really enjoyed that. Found a time too where, doing the book thing, like book tour stuff. And as at the same time, you mentioned that, I had a friend that I met when I was working at the church I was at, and I'll say his name. His name's Tim Stout. Tim, I tell people, Tim Stout's never done me wrong, man. Like, that dude. Now we meet once a year, and we went to South Africa together.
Wow.
We did some great work in South Africa. Spent a month in South Africa. He was one of the designers for Hallmark, and he was the guy that like helped design. They used to have, like, way back, Hoops and Yo-Yo, these characters that they would do. Obviously, he's not working in that capacity for Hallmark anymore. Long since retired. In fact, I remember 2004. He said to me, he said, "Brad, you need to watch this movie." And he was so specific about it. He said, "The first time you watch it, it's going to be dumb. It's going to be so stupid. It's going to be a waste of your time. The second time, you'll think it's brilliant." And that movie was Napoleon Dynamite. And I thought, that is money, man. Like, what you just said, like, the first time, like, this is, what a waste. How dumb is this? And the second time, I was like, gosh, this is sneaky brilliant movie.
Right.
He got together with me. He just kind of comes into my life at different times. We got together in like 2008, 9, and had a beer. And he said, "I really think you should do this thing called a podcast." And I honestly had never heard of it. I'd never heard of it. And he's like, "A few people are doing it." And he's like, "I really think you would be great at it." And he said, "The equipment, some people are going to stress over that. It doesn't really matter. Is I can send you some ideas on equipment, but really just record. And I'm going to be a guest on your podcast at some point, in the first year." I was like, huh. And he said, "I'm not even going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm not going to give any of that. Like, I'm telling you, this is the platform for you, and you just need to jump into it." And so I did. He helped me with some graphic design stuff. He came with the name the Dotcast. He did, actually, because in some of my writings, like, I would use a lot of ellipses, and
Okay.
so he just like dot dot dot, and he's like, "You should just call it the Dotcast, man." And
I love it. I was wondering why I was going to ask you today, how'd you name it? What was it named
yeah,
after? The Zodcast?
yeah, and that's how, I mean, and it just stuck. And when I started it, it was so fun. I thought, man, what I want to do is I want to help share people's stories. I don't think we know enough about people's stories, and I think it hurts us as a society. And I really wanted to share some tools too. And it blew me away, man, how quickly it blew up. I
Right.
had no idea I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, in
Yeah.
2008, I mean, I think they coined the term podcast in '04, but in '08, people still were calling them like audio blogs.
Yeah, I had never heard of it. And he gave me a couple references of people that had podcasts, and I had no idea. So I didn't know. I just started doing it, and like he set it up. We went through Libsyn, I think it was, and this the whole filter was I'm
Yeah.
going to do this, and you can go back. It's you can't find it on Spotify now, but like early
Right.
podcast stuff is on there if you research it. And so one of the things that I would do in the first podcast, I probably the first 50 or 40, a lot of times like the albums that people love, like the music that they actually listen to will surprise you.
Right.
Um, and so I would find that out, not from them. And then if I could, I would actually buy the album. So there was a lady that I had on, it's like she's a great friend, Joy Campbell. And Joy grew up in a really, really religious culture, fascinating lady. And she loved Pink Floyd. She loved the wall. And I was like, man, yes. So I tried to find that album for her, and
Right.
I'd share it, present it on the podcast. So it was just a lot of fun, man.
Yeah,
It was a
that's
lot of
great.
fun.
The podcast today is brought to you by Connect 5000, a Kansas City-based lead generation firm. If you're having top of the sales funnel challenges or are struggling to get into the door of targeted companies, go to www.connect5000.com and download our free ebook. In the last 14 years, we've helped countless software, technology, and consulting companies boost sales revenue with effective lead generation campaigns, sales prospecting strategies, and inside sales management. That's www.connect5000.com.
Yeah, and so I think you've interviewed some like famous people. What are some of the famous people you've interviewed?
Oh my gosh, had Gary V early on.
Gary, the
And
second,
I
the first biggest Jet fan in the world, followed closely by myself.
Yeah, and I don't know him as well, but I've gotten to know his chief heart officer, Claude Silver. Actually, I mean, had her on, had the mayor of Kansas City, Quinn Lucas on. God's like a mentor friend in my life. Paul Young, I've had on. He wrote a book called The Shack years ago. I've had him on multiple times. I really can't remember, man. Like
Yeah,
I've had on, I know quite a lot of different people. But yeah,
yeah, it's amazing. Probably you've had 300 plus episodes, give or take. I don't even know what the number would be. I have recorded probably, I don't know, 75 episodes. So but I think for me, it's a learning process. You learn from each guest different things. But what was your takeaways, doing all those interviews with great people?
stories are sacred. And like when people are authentic and vulnerable, they usually aren't thinking, I'm going to be authentic and vulnerable now. Like that's just, they don't have a switch where thinking, okay, well, now's the time where I'm going to do this. My most downloaded episode ever. I was like a first 10 episode was with the lady I was telling you about. Her name's Joy Campbell. All the podcasts I've done, all the conversations I've done, there's been some great downloads for sure, but she was and is the most downloaded episode. And I think a part of that was because she's just a genuinely nice person that people knew, but also she was incredibly vulnerable about her cancer journey and how to speak to what you're saying, man, like how she was a prominent figure at a bank and how they helped her, how they were empathetic to her and her cancer journey. She shared that and how this kind of whole culture and community came around to support her, to help her. I needed to go back and check, but it for a long time it was the most downloaded episode, despite everyone else.
Right.
And it reverberates, like it
Yeah.
resonates, and it connects with people because that's where all of us live.
Yeah.
Like we all live in authentic spaces, in real life spaces. And when we hear someone share from theirs, we get to borrow courage.
What was the most embarrassing moment you've had on the podcast? Either something you did or a guest did?
I think it was with Bob Kendrick. I don't think I've cussed on here yet, but I
You
do.
did once, and it's totally fine.
But I do, like, in public. I'm mindful of, where I'm at, and I certainly don't want to offend people, but uh but yeah, we edited it out actually, but when it happened, I think I threw an F-bomb out at some story he shared or something he said that
Right.
was just amazing, and I was just it blew my mind,
Yeah.
and as soon as I said it, I was like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
I apologize, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I met Bob a long time ago. Went down to his office at the Negro Baseball Museum. What a great guy! It's
Yeah.
yeah, phenomenal guy. I love your time at the Heart Connection Ministry, where you were the executive director, and tell the audience about when you were doing these seminars. And
Yep.
I think your words are think Brene Brown meets Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
So tell us about
So,
those.
so context, really, like, I would say the most rewarding work of my life, man. When I moved up here in 2000, after about a year working at the church, like, there were some people that were encouraging me to go through this seminar called Breakthrough. They wouldn't tell me much about it. They just told me, you should do it. And I thought, okay. And I got to know Paul Fitzgerald, Dr. Paul Fitzgerald, who founded Heart Connection. And he actually did his doctoral work on internalized shame way before Brene Brown stuff. So I reluctantly went through Breakthrough. I was secretly cynical. And as if one other person tells me about going through this thing, it's like the book you got to read, or the movie you got to watch. I'm like, I'm going to punch him in the face. I reluctantly went through, and it was truly transformational. I don't have full words to describe the amount of awareness and courage and joy and perspective that 4 weekend seminar gave me. And so I just encourage friends, and it's incredible. It was really, really incredible. Helped me love myself and others well, and more than anything else I've ever done.
Hmm.
So in 2009, I just went through it and it's like, great, it was an experience for me. 2009, I was still connected to Paul, and he asked me if I wanted to be a part of Heart Connection, like just volunteering. And a true north reality for me is give your time, give your energy, give your resources to stuff you actually believe in. And you got to check in on yourself on what that is. So, man, that's right. That was really impactful for me. I really believe in that. So I started volunteering, and then I was asked to be on the board, and I was like, okay, I've never been on a board before, sure. And just help build community, and was a part of creating some new immersive stuff. I think it was 2016, 17. Hard Connection was really struggling, and treading water at best. I love Tony Robbins. I got to know him. Like, I don't know him, but I got to know his work, and went through a few of his immersive stuff. And I'm thinking, that's what I'm going to do. Like, I really believe in immersive growth. I think there's warp speed growth that happens in those spaces. And I remember talking to Paul and Susanna Fitzgerald, and I was going to their house and say, hey, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate this opportunity to be a part of this, but it's time for me to step away. I really want to be a part of creating something. And I watched Tony Robbins YouTube of "I Am Not Your Guru." If you've not watched that, and you're like, man, what was this? Like, what was,
It's
what was
phenomenal. That's yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, literally the first minute, I mean, you're in. And that's like some of the work I was a part of, and that we were part of with Heart Connection. And I was like, that I believe in this. And I was going to go talk to them about, hey, I love you guys. I'm going to step away. I want to create something like this for what I'm experiencing with leaders, with culture developers, with, I feel like there's a space for it. And we were sitting there in their house. They still live there. And I remember Susanna saying to me, well, how would you feel about being executive director of Heart Connection? Hadn't even thought about it. I'd spent like 6 years working as a life coach at an amazing place called Lake Mary Center, which I was like a coach for folks with like they would say like higher functioning folks with disabilities, adults. And I loved it. It was, I mean, it gave me space to do all the other stuff I wanted to do. I hadn't even thought about like executive director of Heart Connection. I asked, like, okay, with decision making authority, right? And she said, yeah. I couldn't believe it. I was like, just give me a day to think about it, and I want to go back and process this with Reagan, and I'll let you know what I think. And the funny thing for me was I already had the vision. What I knew for me, and what's always worked for me in leadership, is I have the vision. I see stuff that other people don't seem to see, and I am going to bet on me. And I like my chances of being able to execute on this vision and bring people along together that see it as well. And let's just do some really fun stuff together. And it's going to be magical. Let's go. And so I said yes the next day. And immediately I thought, okay, here's the vision. 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. We're going to create this. We're going to create this. There had been 6,500 people that have been through just breakthrough from 38 states and 7 countries. So, and I mean, last year was 25-year anniversary. And so let's go. Like, let's go where people are, people in the community are. They can get to meet me. They can, they can hear what I'm seeing. They can decide if they want to be a part of that. They can give collaborative energy to it. Like, this is a great idea. This is stupid, but I want to help you, whatever. And so we did. We went on this kind of tour, vision tour, all over the place. We went to Colorado, Iowa, Arkansas, Oklahoma, everywhere. And it was great. But then, vision's one thing. And like you share it with people, that's one thing. And it was a nonprofit, so we're raising money. But at some point you got to execute. And like, that's actually that's the nuts and bolts. Like, great, done a lot of talking. Now head down, like, let's build this. And so we did. It was so fun. I mean, we built so many new immersive experiences for people, did some leadership lunch and stuff. That was great. I saw stuff in those spaces that it still blows me away, the amount of growth that I experienced from people in a very short time. I think there's a myth, Corey'd probably speak to this, that it takes time to build trust. It can take time to build trust, but it doesn't have to take time to build trust. It takes intentionality, and really it takes a safe space and some capacity to build trust. And I watch people come into breakthrough, especially, but we did other immersives called True North. We did a whole lot of other stuff, rites of passage. I watch people come into that room, usually, 25, 35, that a lot of them had no idea who they were. They're usually from 3 to 5 states. They didn't know each other. And within a day and a half, there's immense trust. A day and a half.
Wow.
And so they just showed up. Like, they showed up, they want to do work. Nobody knew. I mean, we had, in hindsight, prominent executives in Kansas City, in Northwest Arkansas. We did immersives there. It never mattered what people did. We never talked about that. Just amazing work, man. Yeah. Like, amazing work. And
did you incorporate Tony Robbins, walking across the fires, the stones?
I've done that, but we didn't do it. We did some. I bet there were people that went through the immersives that they would rather try to walk over hot coals than
bare their soul and about heart.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure.
Yeah, and like, we gave people some of the most amazing moments of their lives. And then what I would tell people is, like, the real integrative work begins because you change, but your life didn't change. Like, who you were built where you are, and you change. You got some new perspective, but your life didn't change. You go back to the life you had, and you're going to need some help. Sometimes you got to change playpens to some degree. I've had people in my life that have actually liked me staying stuck. They've actually liked me staying here, right? And then when you get awareness, that brings anxiety to them because you're interested in looking at things that maybe they aren't interested in looking at. So that's not going to work.
You just moved to the Freedom Project, so you left Heart Connection. So you got the God Whisper saying, I've learned enough here. I've done my work. What was some other factors that, where you were so successful in doing these immersive seminars, really helping people? And tell us about that change and what you're doing now.
Yep. We'd made it through COVID. My job changed 6 months, running a nonprofit with in-person immersive experiences. My job changed dramatically.
Right.
And just started having some awareness of like, I feel like I've done my job. I remember meeting with my therapist and having just this sense that I feel like I've done my job. She said, so every 5 to 7 years, you get curious about other paths. And she's like, when has it ever worked when you didn't follow that? I was like, well, I got fired one time when I didn't. I
Right.
was like, it's never worked. And she said, what's the story you're telling yourself about that? And I realized like one of the stories I was telling myself is like, you just got to stay, you got to be, miserably committed, you know? And at that time I had a 2-year-old. I kind of had a sense like, okay, it's his time to move on. And she said to me, she says, so let's say Rylan, his name's Rylan. She says, Rylan gets older and he is successful by most accounts. It's something he's doing, but inside he knows that I'm ready to shift. If he's never seen anyone do that before, if he's never experienced that, then he won't actually know if he can do it. And I knew. I was like, all right, that's enough. And then it was just a matter of, okay, how do I want to do this? I want to do this. I don't want to do this reactively. That's one of the things I saw a lot during COVID and after. There's just I feel like there's reactive choices from folks in vocations and employment that when I see that, I think, okay, well, that they weren't just great yesterday and they woke up today and now, I'm out. There's a build up to that until they get to the place where the story they tell us, like, I can't do this anymore, quote. And the unlock is realizing and being honest and curious, not judgmental, but curious with yourself when you feel that shift happening. And if it's just a week or 2 weeks, whatever, that's fine. Like people have bad weeks. But if it's over time and that sense doesn't shift, then, you got to pay attention to that. And you can judge it. That never works. Or you can be curious about it. And thankfully, with her help, I was curious about it. And we set it up, where I want to tell the board this time last year, actually, it's time for me to move away and step away. And it's like, I'm going to give you a year. It's a plenty of time,
Yeah.
And had some other opportunities that were popping up and conversations that were popping up as well at the time that just were interesting. But it was more of a feeling like my work here is done. Simultaneously, some new energy and visions towards new ideas. And I think there are times where we would like to believe that the magic happens in the shifts of our lives when, like, I can hang on to this and still, reach for this. That has never been my experience.
Right.
Like, I've got to wisely, appropriately let go of this rope. And in my experience is that it's interesting how the universe, God, however you want to phrase it, like stuff just happens that I don't think would have happened otherwise. Does that make sense?
100%.
Like that
Yeah.
it just happens, but it's waiting for me to jump. Like it's
Right.
like my story is waiting for me to jump, and I can get all the information I want. I can read all the books I want. I can do all the theory. I get all the theory I want. That's all great and fine, but none of it is going to absolutely substitute me jumping.
Right.
And yes, there's anxiety. Yes, there's fear. That's how you know it's legit.
Right.
Like, yes, I mean, all that's there, man. But like, it's still, you got to jump. And I knew that. I knew it. And so all last year, I mean, it was 25th year anniversary of Heart Connection.
Mm-hmm.
The board was wrestling with, do we even want this to continue? Can this work without Brad?
Right.
Can we do this without him? And ultimately, I think the conclusion was no. I know it was, but it didn't change. I'll give you this. This is real specific. Therapist walked me through about 8 different scenarios. Once I decided, okay, this is what I want to do. She walked me through about 8 different scenarios. And every one of them, I'm like, no, still doing this, still doing this. She walked me through one final one. And it was basically, if you do this, this might not exist. What do you want to do? And it was a big pull. I mean, like I know, just save it. That's what I've been doing. That's what I've done. I know I can do it. It didn't matter. It's like, this is what I know is true in the depths of me. This is the way home for me. And I said, no. And then she said, no, it was like a Jedi, like Yoda,
Right.
ready you are, I was like, okay. And yeah, man, it just is great. And so, stepped away from that, and it's spot on. Like now I was entertaining some options, and I'm doing collaborative stuff with Corey, which is great. Like he presents the data, information. I get to come in and do immersive stuff. He tells people this is the overwhelming evidence why trust matters to you. I get to come in and say, now I'm going to help you experience it,
Yeah, love
right? And also with a guy named Abraham Cisse. I met Abraham last March through another mutual friend. He actually came to our gala last year with Heart Connection, and really resonated with the story and what I understood about some of the work he was doing and had done. And literally a month ago, this is end of February, he just calls me and he says, here's what I want to do. I'm going to hire you for this position technically, but really I just want to create this with you. I want to work with you. That's why I want to do this. I'm like, wow. So tell me, I mean, what are we doing? What am I doing? And
right.
and the whole idea, yeah, that'd be helpful. And the whole idea is it basically is to shine the bright light on people who are real heroes in the mental health and healthcare industry,
Mhm.
to get policy and bills passed in Missouri and Kansas, that give high schoolers, elementary schoolers, definitive access to healthcare and healthcare paths that maybe they wouldn't have before. And the Forum Awards is happening in May. So we're all familiar with the Grammys. Trevor Noah is going to be at this, right? So, I mean, Trevor Noah just presented at the Grammy. Like he was
Yeah,
just the host of
right.
the Grammys. He's going to come here. He's going to come here and be a part of this. The
Yeah, wow.
difference is now like celebrities, local celebrities, athletes, sports, whatever. We've got some other people that are coming to speak. They're going to present awards to folks who have been champions in national, local mental health fields, healthcare fields. Like they're going to, say thank you and have just public display of like, thank you, thank you, thank you. There's an expo, there's a lot of stuff around it,
Yeah.
but I was just, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's wonderful.
Yes. I mean, I love this, man. I love this. And so
Yeah,
that's what I'm a part of right now.
I
And
love it.
that's
So
Sacred Third Way, man. Like I'll connect dots real quick, Jeff, but like Sacred Third Way, like that door doesn't open until you let go of the rope and you jump. There are doors that are waiting for you to take action. And whatever that action step is for you, your life is waiting for you.
mhm.
And you got to just take action, not reactive action, proactive action. A lot of reactive action is going to leave you with regret, but proactive.
Something you said was the reactive job choices. So I left United Way, Greater Kansas City. I'll say voluntarily, but it was really involuntarily. But in
Yep.
COVID, and I talk about reactive job choices. Like I've been through probably 10, 11 transitions, and most have been involuntary. and
Right.
but I think the reactiveness in me was always, I got to get another job. I get, like I'm the primary wage earner for my family and things like that. And
Right.
that's important for a lot of different reasons. But it really came to light after United Way because I'm like, I got to get another job. And I was having a lot of doors slammed in my face in the W-2 world. So I had to figure out, what's going to bring me joy. And for me, it's doing this podcast and helping other companies do their podcasts. So that's brought me joy. So I'm really glad you said it that way, and I love the way you're implementing it at a much younger age than myself.
Well, and I would say this too, Jeff. Like after I was let go from church job at Indian Creek, the best self awareness I had then was I knew I didn't know what I wanted. I mean, I'd leveraged my life to be a pastor, like to do that work, and I knew that I didn't want to do that anymore. And so, I'm like, man, we got a lifestyle. Like, I like our lifestyle. I want to help pay for that. So, what do I do? So, I mean, I tell people it's like I spent like 3 months like doing pizza delivery stuff
Yeah,
in 2006. I mean, whatever you got to do, man. I was
yeah,
like, like whatever. I mean, I like Ricky Bobby on Talladega Nights, like Hoogaloo's Pizza. Like, I spent 3 months doing that.
Yeah.
Do you know how interesting it was for me to do pizza delivery with the church I was a part of? Do you know how wild? Like, do you know how
Right.
wild that was?
Yeah, I
It's like,
bet.
man, like I'm walking up, like, I mean,
Yeah.
but I'm like, man, I don't know. I mean, there were so many opportunities then. Like a lot of other friends, other churches calling, like, we want you, like, we just hired you.
Yeah.
I knew I didn't know what I wanted. I just knew I didn't want this. And so I'm saying no to all that. And I'm like, well, I want to help us pay our bills. That whole time I think back on it, I'm like, man, I just have so much respect for people who just the kind of nitty gritty,
Yeah.
the grit that it takes
Yeah.
to create the life you want,
I
you
shoveled
know?
snow one
So,
time when I was out of work for 7 months, or it was a blizzard in Kansas City. A friend of mine was did snow shoveling for this apartment complex. It was like 8, 9 inches of snow, and I shoveled for about 6 hours and made I don't know, like $400 cash. So, but
yeah,
you do what you do, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
You do
Uh,
what you got to do, man. Yeah,
yeah.
you do what you got to do. So,
Yeah. Brad, there's two groups I love helping with leadership advice from great people like yourself. The first group is the people coming right out of college. They're going to get their first professional post-college job, begin their career journey. What advice do you have for them?
you need a personal board of directors. You need to have, well, it's 3 people, 5 people, 7. I don't care. Like more than one for sure. Probably more than 2. But you need to create a personal board of directors, and you need to let 3 things guide them. Who's on there? One, it needs to be people that have some wisdom in their life, so it's not theory, right? They're not just quoting stuff from a book; they've experienced it. These need to be people that have your best interest at heart and the people you care the most about. Like their end goal is to see you flourish. Third, and probably most important, is you need people who will tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear. Like you need people that, I mean, I mentioned Paul Young is probably president of my board, man. My personal board has been for a long time. I can't tell you how many times, man, where he said stuff to me that pissed me off when he said it. I did not like it, but it's exactly what I needed to hear. And I knew he wanted the best for me. Best advice I can give you, honestly, wherever you're at in your life, but especially then, is you need to have your own board. Like I've got a Brad Hill board. You need to have your own board and vet the people by those 3 paths. And how do I know who the people are that'll tell me, what I need to hear because they have.
Yeah, no, I love that. I have not heard that before out of the 70 plus people I've interviewed. So I love that. The second group is, once you're in your work life and, evolving as a professional, there's that point in time where now you're responsible for a team of people and they report to you. What advice do you have for them as they begin their leadership journey and being responsible for people?
I can't think of a better word. I really don't want this to sound simplistic, but whether you know it or believe it or not, you are the one that is in the position that you're in, like authentically you, and you show up authentically, vulnerably, and part of that is like you continue to grow. You ask for help, like you model the things that you're wanting from the people that you lead, right? If it's just something that you read a book, you guys should do this, and they see you and you're not doing it, you have no integrity. Straight up, like you have
Right.
no integrity in this. But even if you say, hey, I really would like to see us do this more, and I acknowledge that I've sucked at this, then that's something, man. Like that's vulnerability.
Yeah.
I think it's the best advice I can give. Like they want to know that you actually care for them as human beings. And if you do, which involves having clear, hard, empathetic conversations, if you do, man, I think you'll have people that will want to work with you, for you. And you're there to serve people, by the way. Like that's leadership. Like you're there to serve them, to care for them, to be mindful of them, to care for them wholly as human beings, not just worker Jim or worker Sue or whatever. You show up as a worker. Like you're there to care for them. That's your primary job.
Well, Brett, thank you so much for being on the Corporate Couch today. I love your career journey. I love what you're doing now. I'm excited to see what you and Abraham and the rest of the team at the Freedom Project to help mental health awareness and helping people with mental health issues. So thank you for doing that.
Appreciate you having me on, man. I honored to be a part of this.
Joe, I'm just going to tell you, I'm jealous of Brad. One, he's a podcast pioneer.
Yeah.
He started in 08 or 09.
One of the first.
Yeah, they were still probably calling them audio
Audio blogs.
back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the term podcast was like 04, 05, but I mean, probably still some people will call them, audio blogs. Even Tim Ferriss got into it in 2014, so he's celebrating his 10-year anniversary. Tim, we're coming after you, though, in terms of downloads. We're coming after you, Joe and I, on the Corporate Couch.
We're going to do it.
And he had Gary V, the most famous New York Jet fan in the world. I'm a close second or third. So yeah, it's phenomenal. And he had a lot of great stories with Brad and kind of that wandering career journey, defying himself and moving on to the next thing. And then, just showing a lot of grit. He left the church and then he, just to help, have income, he was delivering pizza to people that he was serving at the church. And, he said it was weird, but, he had to do what he had to do to, make money, with heart connections and going through, putting on that, weekend seminar series, the Breakthrough, the transformative, immersive learning. He said, think Brene Brown meets Tony Robbins, and how it changed his life and how he, went through that when he didn't work for Heart Connection, and then they hired him to be the executive director. Just published author. How he started in leadership, or he didn't call it that, but in ninth grade he reads one of the great leadership books, John Maxwell's The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. In ninth grade, like that, I'm just reading what Mr. McLaughlin, my ninth grade English teacher, was telling me to read.
Yeah.
I do remember reading The Separate Peace by John Knowles. Interesting book. But anyhow, what did you take out of the episode with Brad?
Brad was all over the place, and he was all over the place early. Never forgot his roots, his New Orleans roots. So, huge Saints fan, just like you're a huge Jets fan. And the Saints are never going to do no wrong. He remembers the paper sacks over your heads, that era of the Saints. And the thing is that he ended up doing a lot of, we talk a lot about how he moved around, but even after he landed someplace and he found his thing, every 5 to 7 years, he'd had enough of that thing, whatever the thing was. You just see the air quotes that I'm doing here now. And so he had to go off into something else. And so he would leave that thing and go into something else. And that gives him a resume that's as long as your arm. That's the exact opposite of what I did. I essentially have been in business my entire life, done essentially one career, and worked for 3 different companies doing that exact same thing, or virtually that same thing, and stayed at one company for 20 years, and did all that up to my retirement. But I think that what that does is that gives credibility to the fact to our listeners that there is no one path to success, or as you go through your life. If Brad had to change careers every 5 to 7 years, that's what Brad had to do. If Joe has to stay with essentially the same career for 20, 30 years until he retires, that's what he had to do. So find the thing that you're interested in and go for that.
Yeah, no, totally agree. He's just a great person, and like I said in the episode, I literally had done his podcast 2 days before we recorded his on the Corporate Couch, so it was fun. We did his live, so yeah, fun. So what leadership advice for our great listening audience?
We're going to go back to that great philosopher Yogi Berra one more time. And Yogi, one time when he was being interviewed about jazz music, and he said this: anyone who understands jazz knows that you can't understand it. It's too complicated. That's what's so simple about it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Corporate Couch. If you enjoy the podcast, I would love for you to take 2 minutes out of your day to rate us 5 stars and write a review. Please join me next week to learn from another great leader sharing their professional journey and insights.